Knight of Seven Kingdoms, episode 3. Oh my gosh, what an episode. I guess we're gonna start. We'll start at the very, very start. Getting into it here, we see that Dunk's sleeping an egg. He's awake, and so he decides to take out one of the horses for some training. I believe that one is Thunder, the war horse that Dunk would actually ride into the tournament. And then who should come across Egg and Thunder but Sir Robin Riceling, a knight who lost an eye in a previous joust, apparently, which we do get to see. Then we get Egg singing in a tree, and this is actually really, really interesting because he's singing about the Blackfire rebellions. The first one, actually, because that's the only one that's happened as of now. It's all about how Baelor and Maekar are trueborn sons, and how Daemon is not a trueborn son, and so that's why they've got to squash him. Just looking at these lyrics are just really, really amazing, and I think this is a really cool way that the showrunners can actually not only incorporate the Blackfire lore into the show, which, didn't exist when the actual Hedge Knight novella was written, but also it allows the showrunners to explain the Blackfire Rebellion without actually, showing it fully on screen or giving a long, drawn-out explanation that's not in the novella and might hinder the storytelling, right? However, having Egg do this little song thing that pretty much lays out the whole plot of the Blackfire Rebellions without actually having to go through a whole flashback scene, which could either feel out of place or, casual fans might not understand. And then you have the alternative, which is, of course, not mentioning it at all, which also doesn't feel right because, the Blackfires are very, very important politically at this point in the timeline. So, of course, all that being said, love the song. And then Dunk decides, no, he's ready to go and joust, and Egg's like, wait, no, you can't joust today, man. The first day is only for people of high birth and knights who are well known, and you're neither. And so Dunk's like, oh crap, I guess we'll go sightseeing instead then. And so he wanders into the town square and he gets some eggs where he sees Tanzel Too Tall, and she tells him that his shield will be ready that night. And then Dunk and Egg, they decide to have some good food, look like some meat with some eggs and some bread and the official Westerosi sandwich. It's official. Westeros has sandwiches in it. It's just another thing you're not going to get from reading the novella. Anyway, then it's time for some jousting. Looks like we got Sir Humphrey Beesbury versus Sir Humphrey Harding. The Battle of the Humphreys, I believe this is called in the novella, and it's very, very interesting. Sir Humphrey Harding actually beats out the Beesbury, and it's very, very cool to see. And then we have a little clip of Sir Andrew Ashford gunning down, it looks like, just based upon the steel, it looks like a Stokeworth. Sir Andrew's running him down with it. Stokeworth is not even, ready to joust. He's still grabbing his lance. And also, little nitpick, the sigil of how Stokeworth is much different on the wiki than it is in the actual show. In the wiki, it's like a lamb holding a goblet, whereas in the show, it's like a lamb in the goblet, so it's really interesting. Maybe it's a carryover from Game of Thrones where the sigil is different, though I don't recall ever seeing a Stokeworth sigil in the original show. Nevertheless, though. Then we get to Dunk and Egg talking about their future, and then who should show up to talk to Dunk but Plumber the Steward? And essentially he's there with a proposition saying, if you can fight Sir Andrew, then people who bet on Sir Andrew the favorite, the hometown boy, they would be out of money, and you would have his horse, and you'd have his armor to ransom back to him. And Dunk's just like, this doesn't seem right. This is unhonorable, right? Because you're telling me essentially that you think I can beat this guy, and that just doesn't seem right to Dunk. And so Plumber's like, you know what, man, come talk to me tomorrow, and we'll sort this out. And then the horns sound to the next joust, and actually final joust of the episode, I think, which is Prince Aerion Brightflame. We actually get the Brightflame name drop. As the announcer was saying it, I was like, wait, no, is he actually going to say Brightflame? And he did, and I genuinely did cheer a little bit. Not for the person, of course, for the actual fact that they said Brightflame on screen, because I was really wondering when they were going to fit that in. And so Aerion goes to choose his champions, and it looks like for a second he's going to pick his cousin Valar Targaryen, but he's just like, nah, I'm not gonna embarrass you today, which is just an even more leveled way of saying that he knows Valar's going to beat him. And so instead, Aerion picks Sir Humphrey Harding. Out of all the contenders he could have picked, he picks from Sir Humphrey Harding, which, if you don't know, and I don't blame you if you don't, is really a minor Vale house. So actually, he's like the poorest there. So Aerion is really just picking on the small fry, is my point. And then, of course, the joust happens. They go past once. Aerion ducks out of the way, and then they go past a second time, and Aerion decides to stab the horse through the neck. which is like, oh, I felt so bad for this horse. And of course, the small folk, they don't like this, so they try to rush the gates. And then the Kingsguard Knights actually show up to prevent this, and the Ashford Knights as well. It's a whole cool thing. However, actually, if you go and look at the wiki, Sir Humphrey Harding actually technically won that joust because Prince Arion forfeited, at least according to this wiki, right? Anyway, though, after this, Dunk and Egg start talking, and Egg mentions that Arion definitely did that on purpose, which Dunk is a little hesitant to really think about. And this comes up later in the episode, of course, right? Because Dunk still has this naive idea that, all knights must be honorable, and lords and princes even more so, right? Because they have such great power, wealth, responsibility, so they have to be good guys, right? And Raymond Fossaway sort of checks him with saying, like, well, why do they have to be good guys, right? Anyway, we'll get to that in a moment. And also, little tidbit. You notice that after this sort of matchup, as Dunk and Egg are walking away, it starts to rain. And Plummer mentions it earlier. They're like, oh, hopefully we can keep the rains at bay another day. But, of course, it's just one of the things I've heard mentioned about this, the trailers and the novella, is that as things start to deteriorate within the social aspects of what's happening at the trial, so does the weather also start to deteriorate into a less favorable position. And this is just like the start of that. So nice little touch. Anyway, though, then we go to Lionel Baratheon's tent again, and he's shirtless and dancing this time. We also see Manfred Dondarrion there as well, and they're singing a nice song, and we get the lowdown from Dunk and Egg about what it is all about. Again, I don't know if this is in the novella, but I got a feeling that this is the sort of thing George would write, but also it's the sort of thing that would definitely might not be in the novella. Nevertheless, though, for YouTube reasons, we won't go too much into what they're saying. Egg does make a good point, though, about the moral of the story being hope, and hope is something that we all have, which is very nice. And then Dunk and Egg are walking through the town square, and we see Dunkley give like a passing eye to Plummer as they pass by, and then they're just continuing going through until they meet Raymond Fossaway. And Egg's just like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go to the puppet show while the adults talk. And so Raymond and Dunk, they go to the tent where they have that nice conversation that I was mentioning earlier, where Raymond's like, Dunk, these people, just because they're rich and powerful, and especially if they're Targaryens, right, doesn't mean they're good people. And Raymond specifically seems to think that all the Targaryens are not good people. I think he says, like, each whelp is madder than the last, or something like that. Which, is not necessarily true, of course. Aerion in particular is mad, but Baelor is just about the nicest Targaryen there ever was. Again, it's just one of those things, right, where the Targaryens don't have dragons anymore, they're not invincible anymore, and so people see them as they are, which is just people with flaws. And especially when you have someone like Aerion, I mean, that really hurts the reputation, which is why having someone like Baelor Breakspear as the next heir to the throne is so super important. I mean, that's why the Targaryens are here in the first place, right? Essentially, they're doing PR. Anyway, though, then Dunk is watching the play at Tanzel's place, and once again, it's a play of Servant of the Mirror Shield. And it turns out the dragon is killed, though. I wasn't sure about that at the end of the first episode, because I've heard of the myth, I just wasn't sure how it ended. Nevertheless, though, we see the play end, and Tanzel's actually playing Cersei, and who should approach the play but Aerion Targaryen, and he doesn't look very happy. Now, again, we don't actually see what transpired, but I have to assume something along the like of Aerion doesn't like the idea that Tanzel is putting on a play about killing dragons, especially when he himself refers to himself as the dragon. I think at 2 points in this episode, right? He says, come face the dragon, and the dragon never loses. Again, major Viserys III vibe. Also a good sign of a mad Targaryen if they call themselves the dragon. As, of course, Egg comes running into the tent to get Dunk, and Dunk then runs to the play and sees that Aerion is, he's breaking Tanzel's finger, and at that point, Dunk snaps and goes into full, I don't care about the consequences, I just need to hurt this guy mode. Which he does, right? He punches Aerion quite a few times, throws him to the ground, and even once the guards actually get him, and Aerion starts to pull his blade, Dunk gives him a swift kick, right, knocks him over. Nice little touch. Nevertheless, though, Dunk is sort of captured, and Aerion's like, hey, why would you do this? You're losing my front tooth. You've got to pay. So we're going to break all your teeth, right? And it's at this point, thankfully, that Egg comes running up and is like, don't you dare. And this is at this point that we get the reveal that most of us, if you read the novella, have heard about. Essentially, though, Egg is going to be short for Aegon. Prince Aegon Targaryen, the son of Maekar, very, very big reveal. And I also love how Aaron's just like, you, what did you do to your hair? And then Egg's just like, I shaved it because I didn't want to look like you. Though thankfully, Egg popping into the tent and revealing his identity and ordering the guards to back down, I think he even calls them by name. He does manage to save Dunk's life, save him for imprisonment, and whatever happens in the next episode, which we look forward to seeing, because that's actually the end of the episode. Also, the good news is that particular next episode does happen to air on Friday instead of Sunday. It's got an early air date for whatever reason. If I had to guess, though, I'm guessing it's just this one episode, and most likely they needed to, like, drop this next episode early that's mostly finished, or actually probably entirely finished, so they can work on doing some fine adjustments to the CGI that appears in episode 5. That's just my guess. So it appears as though it's a really cool gift, but in reality what it is just more time for them to work on episode 5. Anyway though, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll catch you in the next one. So see you later, have a good rest of your day, and catch you later. I said that twice.